Hi everybody, Meredith from the Witty Gritty Paper Co. here, and today I'm going to be telling you all about a cool new watercolor product that I've discovered, and it is called the Portable Painter. So you may have seen this on some other YouTube channels. It's a travel palette, and it is very cool. It is perhaps the best one that I have tried. So a little backstory, it was designed by a guy who was an industrial designer for a while and also had many years in product design and was also a watercolorist, and he couldn't find a travel palette that he thought cut it for his needs, so he designed one. So let's do a little unboxing here. And I'm a very spatial person, so I can really appreciate, or I do really appreciate the way that this is laid out. Like, it's very well thought out. So we slide it right out of its box. The box is nice and printed, has photos, ideas, all sorts of good stuff. And here is the palette itself. As you can see, it's not terribly big. It's about the size of a smartphone, depending on what smartphone you have. And there are also some how-tos and informational stuff, a couple different languages, all that good stuff. So let's get on to the good part. The case is plastic and it's held together by this little clip here. So you slide off this little metal clip, and these two halves come apart. And one of the halves has this rubber band on it. So I don't think that the original version had this, but they put it in there so that you could store the clip, first of all, because if you lose this clip, the whole palette is kind of useless. I'd say that's maybe the only little design flaw, is that if you lose the clip, you'd have to like tape it together. But with the rubber band, it's pretty easy to keep the clip, and you can also bring like extra paintbrushes or microns or other stuff, white gel pen, anything else you like to paint with. So like I said, this is mostly a travel palette, and you'll see why it is particularly well suited for that. So you got these two pieces here. These are actually the water buckets. So if you look, they're hollow. These are actually the two water buckets. And this is the palette itself. So it opens up on both sides. It's got two mixing areas and let's see, 12 pans. So they're little half pan sizes. They come out. They're a little difficult to snap out, but they are all removable. So this palette does not come with paint. So there's one. Come on out. Okay. So I've got these little sticky dots on the other side, but it does not come filled with paint. Now for me, that's an advantage because I really like to travel paint, and I don't always get to pick my own colors. Most travel paints are already filled with paint, or there's also like sheet watercolors, which we've shown here. There's like the Peerless, the Viviva that I showed a couple months ago. Those are awesome, but if you are looking to paint something specific, want to pick your paint colors, and you want all like light, fast colors that you've tested, then this is great for you. And also it brings the price of the palette down. Whenever a palette is filled with paint, it immediately goes up, especially if it's professional grade watercolor paint. So for me, I don't mind that it's not filled with paint, but it's important to know. I think that the whole thing retails for like $30. Oh, and this is not a sponsored video. Full transparency, not a sponsored video. I was sent these samples, but it's not a sponsored video, and rest assured, guys, that I would never ever show anything here that I hadn't tried myself and loved, and that I wouldn't have bought with my own money anyway. So as you can see, not filled with paint, two mixing areas. One has more divisions than the other. The whole thing is plastic, which is not my favorite to mix on, but it certainly wouldn't be practical for it to be made of anything else, so that's okay. And then it also comes with a brush here, and the brush has a brush guard too that I have lost, but it comes with a brush, and it's actually a two-sided brush. So if you look here, you pop out this side and there's a smaller tip, so it's actually two brushes in one, which is handy. Although I will say that it's not my favorite thing about it is not the brush, because the bristles are actually kind of too snappy for watercolor. They'd probably be better suited to like acrylics. But it does come with a brush, and if you had a different travel size brush, then you could certainly swap it out. It's not that the brush doesn't work. There's nothing wrong with it. It doesn't really shed, which is my main pet peeve with brushes. So it's just not my absolute favorite material. But anyway, so the way that you would do this if you were painting out in the world is you attach these little water buckets to the side of your palette and you just slide them in so they're friction fit. They're pretty easy to get in. Let's get the other one. Okay, so it stands up by itself. It balances by itself. Water goes in here, mixing here, paint here. Pretty simple. And what's really cool about this is you can put it on your leg. So if you're sitting, you can put it right over your knee and put your paper on the other side. And since it holds water, you don't have to worry about a water bucket. So it is the best palette that I've ever seen, the most well thought out if you want to paint with traditional pan paints. And I have other pan watercolor travel sets, but most of the time the problem is there's never enough room for water, or they don't balance. So this fixes both of those problems. Very well thought out. So this is, I didn't fill this one up because I wanted to show you how it just comes. Here is one that I have gone ahead and filled up. As you can see, I've squirted in 2 paints. I did not add pans, but you can certainly add pans. Not a problem. The only thing is that the pan sizes are not the same for all companies. So if you were to pop these out and pop back in pre-made pans from like Winsor & Newton, or I don't think Daniel Smith makes many pans, or Schminke, they might not fit. So these are half pans. It's 12 half pans, not full pans. And I decided to just fill in the ones that are provided, the shells that are provided. But you could pop them out. You could squirt paint right in there. But this way, if I wanted to, I could pop out some of these and add in other colors with these blank guys. So don't assume that whatever pans you have are going to fit. I think that the better thing to do is just to fill it with tube watercolors. I know not every artist likes to do that. I personally think it's a good way to go. But I wouldn't just assume that your pans are going to fit. Maybe contact the company to make sure. So that's basically the tour of it, unboxing of it, and I thought I would show you how it works. I have used it on my knee and it works great, but personally I kind of love that it just stands by itself on a desk. I mean, it does not take up as much room as my paint and water buckets normally would. So I prefer painting with it just on a table. I know that's not really what it's designed for, but it balances, and it also helps me not to waste water because it is in limited supply. So I thought I would do a little speed paint for you guys here, just to show you sort of the logistics of working through it. And that is pretty much it. So let's get right on to that. And thank you all so much for watching. As always, please like and subscribe if you want to see more of this kind of content, and thank you so much for watching. So let's get into our speed paint. So for this painting, I decided to only use the brush that came with the palette, just because I want you to see sort of its advantages and its limitations. And I've also gone ahead and put the chart of the colors that I filled my palette with above this painting here, just for reference. I did a sort of primary heavy rainbow. Forgot to mention as well that the Portable Painter Company is actually generously offering a 10% discount if you're interested in checking out one of these palettes for yourself. The code is in all caps GRITTY, and it's for 10% off on their website, so be sure to check that out if you want one. I would say that really the only thing about the palette that I think is a weakness is the fact that the brush is just a little snappy and a little small. It doesn't hold a ton of water. Now, of course, it can't be that big or it would not fit in the palette. So I understand that. I don't think it's necessarily a design flaw, but I think it's definitely something to know. Depending on what you like to paint, because if you were to try to cover any big area and you need to cover it quickly, then you might struggle a little bit with this brush. But other than that, it's a very solid product, very well designed. One thing I do like about the small brush is that since it's quite small, you don't need as much water to clean it. So if you were painting in the field, if you're out on location, then that would be good because you wouldn't really have to change your water. So that would be, I think, a real advantage of this. Because normally I would be going through more water than this for a painting this size.